Okay, well, also, thank you very much, Prime Minister, for talking with África Mundi.
My pleasure.
As we are in this forum, I would like to start because this aims to foster China's relations with the international community. So, how do you think the relationship between the African countries and the Chinese actor has evolved over the past decade?
Well, we must remember that the relationship between China and African is an old relationship. China has helped in the past many liberation movements in Africa when they were struggling to get rid of colonization. Secondly, in 1971, that's thanks to the African countries' vote that China, as we know it now, took back the seat that belonged to another to the nationalist movement of China at that time. So that's a long relationship. And also in 2013, President Xi Jinping launched the Belt Road initiatives, starting, to recall the Silk Road, the trade that happened in the past between China and the east coast of Africa. So the relationship is an old one. And what we are looking forward to is to strengthening it. China happened now to be the first economic partner of Africa. I think it is going to be the first one for Senegal. And what we also look forward to is that China has a past of colonization. It's been a colonized, oppressed country. So they can understand also from where we are coming from as African. And we're looking to having mutual benefit relationship. That's what it should be. We couldn't build that in the past with many of our partners. And also we look into technology transfer. And we hope that we are going to develop also a relationship that will support Africa industrialization. These are our ambition in that relationship, a win-win relationship, and a relationship that is based on our mutual benefit. That's how we look at it.
Because some voices in the West accuse China of employing debt traps and actor as a resource extractor. So what is your perspective on this?
Well, we ask our different friends to let us speak on our behalf. We can speak up for ourselves. We don't need anybody else to tell us what we should do with other partners. That's the first thing. Because we had debt with the West that didn't lead to development anyway. So I don't think they're well placed to give advice on that front. We are looking forward to managing our debt the best way we could to avoid precisely the debt trap, which is not the case for a country like Senegal. But we must recognize also that China is much more liquid, money-wise, than Europe. That's the reality. But at the same time, we would like to build, as I say, a mutually benefiting partnership based on China's interests, but also on our interests. And our particular interest is, as I said, industrialization, but also technology transfer. That's what we are looking forward to. Because Africa is a very young continent, the youngest, actually. Let's remember that we are 1.3 billion people, so numbers matters. That's the second most popular continent after Asia. So very much soon, we will be, one human being on Earth out of 4 will be an African. So it's in the interest of everything that Africa realize its development. That's the benefit of Europe. That's the benefits of the rest of the world, because we will be contributing much more to the wealth of humanity. And that's a big point, because Africa existing is already a victory. Because we are in Spain. Many countries in South America didn't survive the encounter with the conquistador. The Maya disappeared, the Incas disappeared, the Aztec disappeared, but the African didn't disappear because we were resilient, we fought back, and we were maybe lucky. So we look forward to continuing to strive, to move forward. We are a very young continent. We are the youngest. 70% of the population of Africa is below the age of 30. The median age is 19. It is 44 in Europe. So the whole debate about immigration needs to be explained to the European population. Europe needs younger labor force. They will not find it anywhere else in the world than in Africa. So that's why I salute the wise decision of the government of Spain to legalize 300,000 workers. Many of them are African because the economy, the Spanish economy needs them. So we should, sort of differentiate the schizophrenic debate about immigration and bringing the numbers to the population so they understand that the migrant that comes, they come with the labor force, they contribute to the future pension, and they contribute to the wealth of Spain. That's the way to look at it. And we need to dismiss the wrong facts and the subversive ideas of the extreme right that doesn't match with the reality. So that is important. To come back to China, we do believe that we can have a discussion that will take into consideration both the interests, because China also wants to make business with Africa, because Africa has a lot to offer. We do have a blooming middle class. 200 million African are part of the middle class, so they have a purchasing power. Everybody's interested in selling them goods, etc. But us, ourselves also, we would like to develop our own industries, support our own private sector, so we can meet in the middle. That's what I call a win-win situation in business with China and the rest of the world anyway.
Because it looks like most African countries try to engage with all possible international actors. So is that achievable in today's global landscape?
Yes, it does. It requires a good diplomacy and being wise, and that's what we are doing. That's what African countries and Senegalese countries as a country is doing, especially with the new leadership, rising in Africa. In Senegal, for instance, 8 months ago, Senegalese voters elected the youngest African president, President Bassirou Diomaye Faye. He's just 44, and he has a different vision than his predecessors. We are going to work much more on our sovereignty, on diversifying our partners. We are friends of everybody. We are enemies of nobody. That's the way we look at it. And we only are interested by our own interest. So that's how we would like to conduct business with the rest of the world. You gain, we gain. I mean, that's a win-win. And I call upon our old partners to understand that there is a shift in the mindset of the new African leadership. And they should acknowledge it and take it as it is.
You were Prime Minister in Macky Sall's administration a decade ago. Yeah. So if you could change one thing about your time in government, what could it be?
Well, I think we should have paid more attention to industrialization, definitely. We didn't make progress on that front. But when you have a young population, job creation is one of your priorities. Otherwise, you find young people in the street demonstrating. So how do you industrialize the country? You build partnership, as I said. You modernize some of the sectors like agriculture, fishery, and so on. And we would like to do it with partners who understand that. Instead of just importing goods from abroad, we should really spend energy, time and money in building our industry. From the bottom up, We're not going to go aerospatial immediately, but I think we should look into what we call, the industrialization of, small goods and going up. We also have the opportunity of the new economic free zone, Zeleka, in Africa. As I said, Africa is 1.3 billion person. So it's a very attractive market, but we want it to be not open like a supermarket. That's not the way we look at it, but we would like to position also our companies, private sector, so we do more business within Africa to begin with. That is also one of the objectives. Let me tell you that if the 54 African economy were put together, Africa would be the 8th economic power. So we need to get our act together to unify, and then we become the 8th world economy. These are the objectives. Very ambitious, but I think we can reach it. That is a new generation, as I said, of leaders who are much more ambitious, and we're here also to galvanize the people of Africa and telling them that it's very much possible. China got rid of extreme poverty in a very short time, so that's what we also want to do in Africa.
And what are the obstacles for industrialization, at least in Senegal?
Well, that's financing. That's where we need to have good partners. It's important. And I think we need to put the political will. I'm not very sure in the past it was seen as a priority. We focus much more in infrastructure building, which is important, but we forgot that you need also to develop the infrastructure, the industry. So that is now what we need to work hard on. Some countries like Ethiopia, for instance, made a lot of progress in terms of industry, but still. So for Senegal, I think the obstacle is funding, is building partnership with, of course, investors from abroad, and also looking into the environment, the legal environment. But if you look into the Doing Business Index, Senegal is quite well set in the list of African countries. But at the same time, we do have the Zeleka, as I said, the bigger free trade Africa zone that we will also see as a potential to attract investors. So I think Africa is going to be the next frontier for international investment, because if you are, let's say, a Spanish company specialized in building roads and highway, where are you going to build road in Europe? We already have built everything. So Africa is the right place to go. I can say the same when it comes to building hospitals, building schools, etc. So this is where it's going to happen. So, but we have to understand that we have to have good deals when we sign contracts. Senegal is going to also be a gas and oil country. This is one opportunity. So we would like to develop also the sector, the whole chain, logistic, transformation, gas to power. So there are pretty much very much attractive business opportunities. So that's also why I'm talking to you.
And is it the debt putting the things more difficult?
It is, because we in the past didn't necessarily put the money in productive sectors, because we were competing between upgrading the infrastructures, because you need a base, but at the same time you have to build also the economy, so to speak, in different modernizing the agriculture, the fishery, the small industry, because you have to create also jobs. So the debt is an issue. We are trying to see how we can manage that, but there are also huge opportunities when it comes to internal revenue. If you look into Senegal, 80%, on average of the economy is informal. When you go to Nigeria, which is our economic giant, Nigeria is the first economy in the continent before Algeria, before Egypt, before South Africa, which people don't know. That's the biggest one. But most of the people don't pay tax. Imagine in Spain, if 80% of the people were not paying tax, we would go bankrupt. So we could find internal resources, and that's what the new government of Senegal is working on, to make sure that the citizens themselves pay the taxes. It's not that they don't want to pay the taxes, but the economy itself was structured in a way that they were just not formalized, they were informal. These are little businesses in neighborhoods, but these are the people who bring food on the table in families. But now they have to, accept and understand that you have always to pay taxes in return to get investment from the states, etc. So we will tap on internal revenue, and they're quite significant.
Last year, you distanced yourself from President Sall over his bid for a third term. Were you disappointed by his ambivalence toward democratic principles?
But that was 2 years ago. Yes, absolutely. Because first of all, when he got elected in 2012, that was against President Wall trying to have a third term. So 12 years down the line, he wanted to do the same, which is quite surprising. But I guess power got addicted to him. So we had to separate, because I stand by the principle of democracy, and that's what the Constitution said. And at the end, we prevailed over him, because the Senegalese people decided to vote right from the first ballot. President Diomaye Faye got elected as an opponent. That's the first time ever in the history of Senegal that an opponent got elected from the first round, which means that Senegalese wanted just to move on, and they made it very clear that they wanted to solidify and to reinforce their democratic system. So that's a nice victory of democracy.
And what is your opinion of the new administration of President Faye and Prime Minister Sonko?
Well, I mean, we were together, and I'm the High Representative of President Bassirou Diomaye Faye. As I said, he's a new president. So is Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko. And they definitely have ambitions that I share also, of a different Africa, an Africa that will fight for its sovereignty, that will impose itself on the international scene, that would defend its interests. That's maybe what the predecessors didn't do enough. And they were, elected both in the parliament, because we also won the election 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, in the parliament. Out of 165 parliamentarians, we had 130. So that was a landslide victory. So now our new regime has all the tools to work and to move the country forward. So I'm very optimistic of the future of Senegal.
President Faye announced the closure of the French military base in Dakar, and Chad cut ties with France. So do you think distancing from France is a mistake?
No, it's not a distance from France. It's a regular state of affair. In a sovereign country, why would you have foreign troops? Would you see foreign troops in Madrid or in Spain? No. So it's archaism of the past that we are getting, turning the page. That doesn't mean we have any confrontation with anyone, but our own army should defend our own soil. That's the way it goes. But we will continue to have collaboration in all terms, economic and defense, and with France, with the United States, with Germany, with China, with everybody. But the military base were things of the past. So we are talking now of a modern Africa, a young Africa. So that's the way to look at it.
And what role do you think France and the European Union should assume now?
I don't know. They are looking for a prime minister. They have to solve that first, no? So I have no idea of what is going to happen, but well, I'm waiting to see how things are going to evolve. And as I say, I mean, we do have an old relationship with France. We do have also relationship with Spain. We have a lot of Senegalese migrant here in Spain, who are, most of them are legal migrant, by the way, and they contribute both to the economy of Spain, and they send remittances also to Senegal. So we also have a good relationship with Spain and with the rest of Europe, and also with the others, with the United States, with Japan, with China. So that's how we look at it. We see the rest of the world as our friends. But our best friends is ourselves.
You're talking about these increasing numbers of Senegalese youth that are migrating to the Canary Islands, so they're searching for a better future. So how do you view this loss of talent? Are you concerned?
Well, we have to also bring the numbers when we talk about migration. Africans are the ones who migrate the least in Europe. I think the numbers, you need to bring the numbers. Of course, you can recognize us because, we are not, it shows the difference of color. But we are the one who migrate the least. Most of Africans migrate within Africa. A very small portion comes to Europe. Of course, our hearts bleed when we see what sometimes, the boats that sink into the ocean with death of young people, of course. But also, if you take a look at it, I mean, that's a small number within the whole immigration scheme. So that also needs to be said, because what the extreme right is saying in Europe doesn't meet the reality. It's not true at all. We are a small portion, a visible portion, but a small one, and that also needs to be explained. And most of them, as I said, most of the African migrants are legal migrants that are needed and who contribute to the economy of Spain and the economy of Europe. So that's the way of looking at it, and maybe we should have a more serene debate and intelligent debate about the issue of migration, because Spain needs labor force. We have a young population, so why don't we discuss to see how we're going to solve the issue on a win-win basis again? Yeah.
Spain recently presented its Spain-Africa strategy for the next 3 years, emphasizing this increased engagement with Western Africa. So how do you think Senegal's relationship with Spain has progressed?
Well, I think we can make even further progress, as I said, in different fronts. We can see how to work on agriculture, because Spain is big on agriculture, on modernizing agriculture. We have some investors in the fields in Senegal, Spanish investors who invest already in Senegal and they're exporting back to Spain. But we can go further and look how we can also export to Spain ourselves. So I think in agriculture we can do a lot of things. I think also we could develop on a mutual benefit basis industries to transform agricultural product and so on. And of course in the area of culture, we had the Cervantes Institute open not long ago in Senegal. And I think one of the objectives is to build also a cultural link. Actually, you are one of the closest, we are neighbors, actually, as we tend to forget. So we do have, a link to build together. And I'm quite optimistic that we will be able to do so.
So how significant is this African Free Continental Trade Area for the region's development?
Well, it's very important because it is a market of 1.3 billion people. Everybody would love to have such a big market. So that's why we would like to increase the revenues of our people, and then we can further support the private sector, and in return they can create more jobs and increase the living standard. So it's key, because if you take Senegal, it's a country of 18 million. So, but if you do have a market that's way bigger, then the Senegalese companies or the Malian companies and other companies, they would have now to face a bigger market, and then they can increase, of course, their incomes and etc. So it's a very important thing. But we call it free zone, but we have also to control it. We don't want it to be a supermarket, open to whoever, and then the African companies would not benefit first. That's what it is. The Zeleka should benefit first to the African sector, private sector mostly. Now we can see how to build partnership, B2B partnership, business to business partnership. That's also the reflection we are having. And it has to be understood that now what Africa is really looking after is partnership that are beneficial to us. That is really the key. So those who are ready to build such partnership will be always welcome. But practice of the past are no longer in fashion. So that is the message also I would like to share.
You talked before about unity. And does the possible disintegration of the ECOWAS affect this market?
Well, of course, because Africa, as if you remember, we are organized into community of states. You have ECOWAS, the West African community. You have the SADC, and you have Central Africa, etc., Eastern Africa. So it's different blocks. So the integration starts by blocks, and then we go African Union wise. That's the way to look at it. The Zeleka is a huge market, but of course it's represented by different blocks. And in the ECOWAS, we must also acknowledge that we have some challenges, of course. In some countries, security is a challenge. I express my solidarity to our brother country of Mali, for instance, fighting against terrorism. Same in Burkina Faso, in Niger. So this is an issue and a constraint. But we have to come together. And I'm advocating also for a West African force that will support each of the country to fight against these unconventional fighters called terrorists. So that is a constraint, definitely. But at the same time, it's an opportunity because we have Nigeria. Nigeria is, as I said, the biggest economy in Africa. Before all the countries that you know, Egypt, South Africa, Algeria, you have Nigeria first. So this is a big opportunity. For us, Senegal, as I said, 18 million versus 280 million of Nigerians. So if I'm a Senegalese company, if I can access to the Nigerian market, well, I see the world differently. Okay, but same for them also. They would like also to do business with the rest of West Africa. So we do have those opportunities. Now we have to work it out. One of the big project that I would really like to see happening is the ECO, which is the new currency. Because as we speak, we are under CFA, called CFA, which is linked to France, which is linked to Euro. It ensures the stability of the currency, but yet it doesn't give us the flexibility we want, because sometimes you need to lower your currency, to be more competitive, but that we cannot do it. The African countries, West African countries, agreed to create what we call the ECO, which would be the West African currency. We all signed to it 3 or 4 years ago. It should have started. So now it's time to accelerate the process, and then we will have one new currency that would include Nigeria, and then that will be a small Zeleka at the West Africa level. So, and that will, I think, leverage business, which means if you are a Spanish company, you come to invest in Senegal, you can access, the whole market of West Africa through one currency, which is Euro. Which is the ECO, that separates itself from Euro, precisely, through the CFA. So that is also one of the big reforms that I would like to see happening.
So in which phase is the ECO?
Well, it was all finalized. At some point, that was, some countries that I would not like to name, including Senegal, who were just kind of like putting a break. But now we have to move forward, and I think it would help our economies to be more flexible, because that's what the currency helps you to do. You become more flexible. You become more. Your companies become more competitive. So that's and France, by the way, enacted a law saying that they're done with the CFA. So then everybody should be happy, including France. So I hope the process will accelerate in the coming months, and that very soon we'll move to the eco currency.
Since you left office, the Sahel has become a focal point in international context, known for jihadism and instability. So are you concerned that this instability might spread further into the Western region, more Western?
Well, we don't hope so. We wish that Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso will sort of be resilient and stabilize their country. We also need to build up a West Africa force that would support those countries, as I said, and it should become even an African concern. And maybe that's at that level that we should handle the issue. When it comes to Senegal, touch wood, so far we've been doing good. Our army has been doing a lot of preventive work, etc. So we hope it's going to go it's going to continue the same. But really, I think we need to strengthen the solidarity toward those countries who are grappling with the phenomena of terrorism that came from the collapse of Libya, actually. So that's where we are.
And do you think all these, let's say, events in the Sahel creates a false image in the people about what happened in this region?
Of course, because when the media comes, as we say in French, the media is not interested in trains that arrive on time. I'm translating a French saying. They're only interested in trains that come late. So I think the situation in the Sahel is, of course, of a concern. But, I mean, we should not reduce what is happening in West Africa to the situation of the Sahel, or what is happening in Africa and West Africa. The Sahel, some part of the Sahel, by the way, not all the part of the Sahel, and it's a concern, for sure, but it doesn't represent the whole reality of Africa at all. So that's also how we should balance things. Although we have concern, security concern, and as I said, we should express more solidarity toward the countries that are at the front line facing terrorism.
You were the second woman to serve as prime minister in Senegal. Tanzania has a female president. Namibia recently elected one. Are African women getting closer to reaching positions of power?
Oh, yes, yes. We have more female in parliament than you have it here in Spain, or in France, or in Germany. Because more than 42% of the parliament is made of women, thanks to the gender equality parity law. For all elected institutions, it has to be 50-50 men and women. And not the men at the top and the women at the bottom, no. It has to be alternative positions. So that's a law that women fought for, and for all elected positions. Now we have to fight for appointed position, because then when it comes to appointed position, including in the government, the gap is too wide. Although I'm part of the regime, I am calling on now the leaders to re-equilibrate and nominate and appoint much more women. But women also have to stand, have to be proactive, to be part of political parties, and because nothing is given, you have to fight for it.
And also, is it the time for young leaders? Because Faye has become the youngest president in the youngest continent. Do you believe change is happening?
Yes, absolutely. I think the young people are realizing that they are the driving force, and they can, when they vote in one side, that's where the victory goes. So I think they realize that. But at the same time, we also have to give them the capacity to participate to the development of the country, which means training them, vocational training, building also citizenship. That's also important. So they contribute efficiently, because development is not only about election. It goes way beyond. I talked about industrialization, but you have to have the human resources to undertake, your ambitions. So I look forward to our governments, not only in Senegal, but throughout Africa, that they make more strategic investment in the youth. But the youth and the women, as you said, half of the population is women. African women are very brave. They contribute to 70% of the production, the agriculture production. That's the statistic. So they're hardworking. They're participating politically, but they need to be much more supported in their activities. So I think in national budget, we should see a specific budget line for all ministries dedicated to women, because they deserve it. They're half of the population. So if you take the women and the young people, they constitute 80% of the electorate. So they need also to have a strategic alliance to be effective, women and young people. And then they can, put pressure on government so they can be more recognized, and they would be given more space in the governance, but also in the budget and in the society as a whole.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Likewise.